Hey guys, welcome to another Confusion quick lesson. Today is a rainy Saturday and I just had my espresso and I thought, hey, why not making a quick lesson? And yeah, here we are. I've set up my scene here already, but I will just create it from scratch. So to create an ambient occlusion pass, inside your renderer output channels, you have to check normals and Z. Then create a SSAO node and hook the renderer into it. Now, in order to use the ambient occlusion, you also need the original camera. Just hook it in, and before you view it, you might want to reduce the samples. I set it to 500 to speed things up. Excuse me. And yeah, so let's view our ambient occlusion. Here we go. Now, everything looks good from the distance, but if you zoom in, you can see that we have no antialiasing. Now, the first thought would be, oh, maybe we should turn on the supersampling of the normal and the Z-pass. Now, let's go ahead and do that. Now, it seems that it became better. Inside the ambient occlusion, everything looks fine, except if we take a closer look here. First of all, the outlines are not antialized. And here, where we have like overlapping parts, for some reason we also get some artifacts or antialiasing issues. Now, in order to get a better antialiasing on our borders here, we have to use a background, in our case, a sphere, a huge sphere. So create a sphere and make the radius like huge, like 100, and then hook it into the merge. And let's see what happens. Okay, now it seems we have some antialiasing around our object. However, at some areas, it still seems we have some issues, like this whitish outline here. Very strong on this part. And also you can see that the background sphere is somehow visible. These are the faces of the sphere. So it still doesn't look too good, but we can still tweak a few things to get rid of most of the problems. So in order to get rid of the background, which we don't need, we could do the following thing. We could go into our world sphere object and set the ignore transparent pixel in aux channels. If we uncheck this and set the opacity to 0, the object becomes invisible, but will be still included in the channel calculations. Okay, as you can see here, we still have the slightly antialiased borders. It's not 100% good, but let's improve this a little bit. Now, our original pass here has a very nice antialiasing. What we can do now is we can use a Boolean tool, hook in the ambient occlusion, and then take the renderer and hook it into the mask slot of the Boolean. Then, in between a bitmap mask, view it first and set the channel Boolean operation to clear. Just hit C. Now what you see here is basically the portion that we want to cut out from our ambient occlusion pass. In order to do so, we just invert the mask. As you can see, here we get some nice antialiasing. However, those parts here still have the white outline issue. But other than that, we have a pretty decent ambient occlusion pass now. Now we just have to try to find good settings to get rid of all our issues. Now, these white outlines can be fixed by actually turning off the antialiasing. Okay, but now we don't have antialiasing. However, what we could do is, as you can see, I've rendered my images in a double resolution. You could go even higher. However, if you don't have the studio version, the free version of Fusion has a limited output resolution. Now, the reason why I rendered this in double resolution is because now, even though I don't have antialiasing here, If I add a resize node, and I've resized the ambient occlusion path, set it to 100%, you basically have your anti-aliasing, because the resize node has a filter. So this might be good enough for most cases. And as you can see here, we don't have any issues anymore. Okay, great. Let's talk about the kernel type sphere. If we change it to sphere, we will get a different ambient occlusion and also a different issue. Now, if we activate the supersampling using the sphere ambient occlusion type, we get a even stronger outline here. But as long as the outline doesn't penetrate the inner area of our ambient occlusion path, it's not a problem because we can simply cut it out. However, in this case, as you can see, it's not enough. So even our cutout solution won't work with this method because the outline penetrates too much inwards. So I suggest to get rid of the supersampling, render your passes in double resolution, and cut out the alpha, and then just resize it. It should work fine with most of your cases. As you can see, this is like 100%, and you can switch to hemisphere and everything is cool. But I understand somewhere out there there's some tough boys, and they would probably say now, what? Ambient occlusion with no antialiasing? With no antialiasing? No, can't do both. I want my ambient occlusion with antialiasing. Yeah, give us antialiasing. Yeah, we want antialiasing. Well, then there's a solution, of course. You could go back and activate your supersampling for the normal and the Z pass. Okay, now you have your antialiasing here. But again, as you can see, we have our problem. Now, how can we get rid of this? So if we do our cutout, you can see that we still have the problems. And we can get rid of this. We can actually... Now we can do a simple trick here and blur the outline only. So let's do that. Let's add a filter. Hook in your renderer. Let's get two views here. So set the filter to Sobel. And now we need the outlines. If you view the alpha, you can see that the alpha has the outline. We want this as a mask. In order to get this as a mask and not this, we just use a bitmap mask, hook in our filter and view it, and bang, you have it, because the mask is already set to channel alpha. Okay, now we can use this mask to blur our ambient occlusion image. So go ahead and create a blur node and add it before the cutout. So hook in the mask and let's reduce the blur amount to about 0.25, maybe 0.3. We can always adjust our mask a little bit. For example, we could blur it a little bit, hit Control to fine-tune your values, and we could add another mask after the mask to crank up the brightness or the strength of our mask. As you can see, it gets brighter, and you can see that our edge here gets more blurry. And try to set maybe the softness a little bit down again until you find the right result. Okay, so what happens now if we cut this out? It's still a little bit here, but we could tune this a little bit more and we would get probably a good result. What if we resize this now? It's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, so you basically have your perfect anti-aliased ambient occlusion pass now, and you can do some really fancy things now. Okay guys, I hope that this quick lesson could help you out with the ambient occlusion. If you still have some questions, don't hesitate to write me or make a comment on Facebook. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Until then, enjoy what you're doing. See ya.